Hello, and welcome back to Beyond the Hustle podcast, the podcast for building the human that you are behind the business and behind the success. Today's episode is just going to be a little bit of a chit chat update, girly chit chat, because there's been a lot of things that I've been recognizing recently in people struggling in business, struggling being a woman in business in particular. And I really thought, what a perfect time to bring this episode out when I've also just come out of a weekend where she was in Struggle City. So today is just going to be a bit of a update chit chat, really diving into, I guess, like not normalizing the struggle in a sense of like it should feel like a struggle, but also normalizing it in a sense that we're reducing the shame and removing pressure and shame around struggling, especially as a woman in business. And I'm going to start this off by telling you exactly why this weekend was a struggle, was what it was. Okay. If you don't know, I think a lot of people will know this, like past clients and whatnot, but if you don't know, I have endometriosis. And I got diagnosed with endometriosis in 2023, but I've struggled with it since 2022. That's why I then led into moving into women's health coaching, transitioning from PT. And this weekend, wow, long way to come around to this weekend. I was very much struggling with chronic pain, back pain, pelvic pain, like nausea, fatigue. She really wasn't thriving, guys. The whole weekend I was, it really, really was difficult for my mental health. And I was really struggling with low energy. My friends were recognizing that. My partner was recognizing that, bless him. And it's been a while since I've had that. And that's why also this weekend was such a struggle, because it's been such a long time since I've had a flare up in that sense and to that degree, where it has affected my mental health and it has affected my ability to work, my ability to show up and look after myself. I was still able to look after myself and do the things, but we really tried all the remedies. We tried absolutely everything and nothing was reducing the pain for me, which was unfortunate. But it, in true me style, I'm always the person who I always look for lessons. I always look for the bright side of things. And it dawned on me that like how little people really open up about like the bad days and the struggles and the things that are not so like positive and not so like pitch perfect, and people don't maybe want to see or whatever it may be. And it's like, no, but that's actually why we need to share it more often, because I think we do kind of need to normalize that it's okay to struggle. I know everyone always says that, but we need to normalize that it's okay to struggle in business. It's okay to have days where you are overwhelmed, and it's okay to have days where you are struggling to make decisions, where you're overthinking. And the difference is whether you make that bad day or that like the lack of decisions means something about you, right? So if you're, and also a bad day might not necessarily just be like, oh, you're overwhelmed, but it also could be like you are struggling with your cycle, you're having a really high pain day. It could be that your brain fog is absolutely terrible. I've had many days like that. It could be that, yeah, you're unwell and you're confined to the sofa because you're so unwell. And it's like, those on paper, people say those are like bad days, but they're also a chance for you to like look after yourself as a human behind the business, right? And I have so many conversations with my clients. I literally had a client who I worked with for 8 months. And when she first started working with me, she was incredibly burnt out, always working. And we got her to a place where she was actually able to take those days off, because she had never taken days off. She was always working every single day in, day out, 12-hour days, always, always, always. And we got her to a place where she was able to just switch off, and then she got really sick. And she got sick for a good period of time. And throughout that, she was like, I'm so glad that I did this work before getting sick, because I would have actually continued working. And she actually said that there was one time when she went into hospital, she was admitted to hospital, and she continued working in hospital. In her hospital bed, she was still working. And I don't know the full ins and outs of that, and that's just one example of a client. And she said that to me in a case of, now I can actually take this time off because I know that it's going to benefit me, rather than feeling guilty for it. And I think that's a perfect example of like, you can still make the best of that bad day, and you can still look after yourself in that bad day, knowing that one bad day is one day out of a 30-day month, and one day out of a 365-day year, right? And I definitely used to struggle with this in terms of when I had when I did really struggle with my cycle and I did have really painful periods, and every single month it would get to that phase of my cycle, and I would feel so deflated and I feel so defeated, which definitely heightened my pain and heightened my stress around it as well. It's not helpful, in hindsight, but I would get to it and I'd be like, oh my god, like I'm such a failure, like I'm not showing up, like how can I be a good coach if I'm not doing the thing myself? How can I do this if I'm not embodying it? And my partner said to me one day, and again, honestly, bless him, he said to me, he was like, you know that this is like just 1 week. And I was like, what do you mean? And also me being like annoyed at the fact that I can't train or I can't do the thing. I'm like, excuse you, like 1 week, what do you mean? And he was like, well, it's 1 week out of a month. He was like, so you've still got another 3 quarters of the month to like go to the gym and to show up and to do your thing. And I was like, that's actually a really fair point. And he's like, if you add that up, that's like 12 weeks out of a 52-week year. Where is it 52 weeks? Yeah, I think it is. So you've still got 40 weeks of being consistent. And I was like, that actually puts it into such a good perspective. And I think that's where a lot of us like miss that perspective. Because when you're having a bad day, you're so zoomed in on this is the worst day, this is the worst thing, like how you feel, right? And don't get me wrong, that's completely normal as well. However, it's like, pick yourself out of that. If you were to remove your perspective, your emotion out of that, and you were to pick yourself up out of that scenario and to zoom out and say, okay, well, this was just one mistake out of 10 great decisions. This was just one day out of 30 days in a month. This was just 1 week out of 52 weeks, or this was just one post that flopped out of 10 other posts that did great. Like whatever it may be, it's like it only becomes as bad as you actually want it to be. And I feel like when I say that to people as well, they're like, oh my god, that's, how dare you say that? But it's like, any bad day is only as bad as you actually want to make it. And it's whether you make it mean something about you or you don't. And so me on the weekend there, I know that me, a couple of years ago when I first went self-employed, I remember a couple months in, I did have a weekend where I was really, really struggling and I didn't leave my bed for like 5 days. And I felt horrific. I felt horrible. I felt like such a shell of myself. I felt like, how can I have this business? Like, I felt like such an imposter. I felt so not deserving. I felt so like, oh, I'm just lazy. I'm not like, I can't have a business if this is going to be what it's like. And if I can't show up for my clients in the way that I want to, and I can't, and it's like, I was making that mean something about me, which was that I'm not good enough and that I'm a failure. And once you recognize, like, it doesn't actually have to mean that, like, it actually just gets to be okay. It actually gets to be okay that you struggle and that you spend those 5 days in bed and then you pick yourself back up and you move on, right? And again, it's like those 5 days over 30 months, you got 25 other days to show up and do the thing, right? And it's like, I think this is where we also take on that pressure. And I've been speaking to a lot of my clients about pressure at the moment, of pressure to be perfect, pressure to show up day in, day out, pressure to never be behind and never feel behind. And it's like we've demonized the feeling of being behind. And I speak to a lot of clients of people where you're comparing to like where other people are. Oh, this person has a dog, has a kid, has a house, has this, has that, and comparing to them and comparing to where they are as well. And that, whatever comparison you are holding on to or feeling in your day to day, is going to be amplified on your bad days, right? And same with that pressure, the pressure to show up and give 110%, the pressure to post daily, to pressure to send all those DMs or whatever it may be, pressure to launch that offer, launch the thing, whatever it may be. Like, if you're feeling the pressure day to day, on a bad day, on a day where you are struggling, it's going to be amplified, because that's also really what your subconscious will want as well. If any of your fears gets to be amplified on that like day where you're struggling, you're going to sit more in the struggle, right? And that's not me saying that you are like a victim or anything at all, or that you're moving into victim mindset, but that is another issue in itself. If you're always in the struggle, if you're always struggling, you're always moving through like low energy, low mood, low motivation, like to some degree, then what are you getting from being in the struggle? But hold on, the point is gonna come back to me. Yeah, I think it was, let's go with this. If you are able to recognize, like, if you are struggling all the time versus like you're struggling on like a bad day, can you just normalize that it's a bad day and not make it actually mean anything about you, that you're not good enough, that you're this, you're that? It's like, no, actually you are, but you're also a human. you're also a woman in business who has a cycle, who's maybe coming into your luteal phase and you're feeling a little bit low energy, a little bit low confidence, right? You're maybe a human who's made a mistake and you don't like the fact that you've made a mistake, but it also gets to be okay that you take the lesson from it and you pick yourself up and you move on. And I think it's like that's where it's like really coming back to being a human in business. Because being a human in business doesn't mean not making mistakes, doesn't mean not having a bad day or never struggling. Being a human in business means moving through those bad days, those mistakes, those setbacks, and those struggles, not make it mean anything about you, picking yourself back up after you'd allowed yourself to feel it, feel the emotion, feel the struggle, feel the bad day, and then pick yourself back up and move on. Because it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that you're a bad human or you're a bad person, a bad coach, a bad business owner. It quite literally just means that you are a human and it's part of the human experience. For me, the outcome, the end result that we're moving towards isn't that we will never struggle, isn't that we will never feel low confidence, isn't that we will never feel pain, or that we will never feel like we're having a bad day. The end result is being able to pick ourselves up and move on faster from them than we would have previously. The end result is not sitting in it and unpacking your entire suitcase in life and living in that struggle or living in that bad day, but being able to live in it for that moment and then pick yourself up and move forward. That's the end result that I want to work on with all of my clients, and I get all of my clients too, right? Because I can guarantee you, when you allow yourself to not make whatever it is mean anything about you, when you allow yourself to then feel it and then you just pick yourself up and understand, what can I do to move through this, and what can I do for me as a human and as a business owner and as a coach and as whatever, a partner, a sister, a mother, whatever it may be, and then move forward in that way. That's when you then get to move forward much faster, and when you get to build and scale with more sustainability. Because it's not sustainable to begin scaling your business and begin moving forward expecting yourself to never struggle. That's unrealistic. And as soon as you do struggle, you're going to be put back to square one, because it doesn't fit with your perfect model, your perfect outcome, your perfect like ideal and desire, because from the get-go it was unrealistic. Wow, what a little ramble for you guys. But yeah, I think like my main takeaways from, and it's so funny, it's so funny to me as well, when I said to one of my friends this morning, oh, I'm gonna record a podcast talking about like, you know, how I felt the weekend and what I kind of took from it. They were literally like, you of all people, you are the person that would turn like a bad weekend and like your endometriosis flare up into something positive. And I was like, yeah, that is me, like that. But like that is just me to a T. Like I am always told like how optimistic I am, how much like how motivated I am, and all of these things. And it's like, yes, I am all those things, but I can also still struggle. And I can struggle and let myself sit on the sofa and watch TV show for a couple hours because that's what I need to do, and then get up, get ready, and move on. And that's what I want for you guys as well. So yeah, I'm gonna love and leave you guys here. If you've made it to the end of this episode, well done, because I feel like we went in every which way there. But I really hope that you can just remember the next time you are having a bad day, come back to this episode if you need to. But just remember that like if you are having a bad day, it's okay, but it's not okay to make it mean something about you. Allow yourself the bad day, allow yourself whatever it is that you need in that moment, and then pick yourself back up and remind yourself who the frick you are. Because you're not that bad day, you're not that bad moment, you're not that mistake. You're so much more than that. Okay, I'm gonna love you and leave you now, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.